Okay, we left off last week talking about the arachnids, and can someone give me an example of an arachnid? Okay, tarantulas, yes, spiders, okay. So who's going to be our next type of arachnid that's on the schedule? Scorpions, which they have a lot in common with that of spiders because both are venomous. Since they're both venomous, okay, but the delivery mechanism is not the same, okay. So what are some characteristics of arthropods that we have discussed for the last few days multiple times? No, those are, okay, the characteristics of arthropods. This is the very first thing we started talking about. Just tell me. They got jointed appendages, which means they have to have a type of skeleton to attach to, and that is their exoskeleton, which also keeps precious water inside. So there's two of them there, your jointed appendages, your exoskeletons too. How do they breathe? Is it active or passive? Passive. It's passive because we have active respiration with that of gills lungs. And gills are also a type of active type of respiration, but we haven't talked about any animals that have that type. Otherwise, the air is just piped directly to their cells. They got complex behavior patterns. We had talked about that as well. That's for number 5 is they have something about complex sensory organs. Is that correct? Okay. And then finally, the one has to deal with food gathering. Do all arthropods have the same, per se, food source? No, because some go through a larval stage, which means they metamorphosize or go through metamorphosis. And that catches us up to speed with what we have talked about so far. So when we say secretive, okay, they just do not come out much during the day because it's just too hot. Because remember, these animals live in such dry environments that they need to withhold as much precious water as possible. So this isn't the first time we've seen or talked about this. This is the second set of appendages off of, especially we don't want to say just arachnids because that's too vague. We would say arachnae, which is the order name for spiders. Because as you can see, here we're talking about a different order, the scorpions. Because in pedipalps, those are the second set of appendages that branch off the anterior side of these animals. Now, in regards to food gathering, okay, not only is the venom delivery system different between these animals and the spiders, when it comes to the venom of some of these animals, especially we talk about spiders, all spiders are venomous. We've established that, but not all spiders are dangerous. Okay? There's only just a select few that are dangerous to humans, as far as we know, maybe 4, maybe 5 different types of spiders. But with this, how might this be just a little bit different than that of how spiders will consume their prey item? We know that they got chelicerae, okay? We're talking about spiders now. Now this says jaw-like chelicerae, because the reason we say jaw-like is fangs is the specific name for, or I should say chelicerae are the specific name for fangs. But in this case, with spiders, what does their venom do in spiders? It's got a dual function. Actually, I might have 3. Okay, so it'll immobilize their prey item. And then it's going to start to break it down. So we could say that that's a dual function. That is not quite the same as what we see here. Because these animals, yes, they're venomous, but then they'll actually chew their food, unlike that of their arachnaean or other arachnid cousins, the spiders, where they'll actually envenomate their prey item. And then that venom, which is still an enzyme, begins to break down some body tissues. Okay.
Scorpions eat the whole thing, right?
That would be correct. Okay, so let's see here. We still have scorpions on the schedule for tomorrow. So just like that of their spider cousins, you got a short cephalothorax, which means how many body segments is this? 1, 2, or 3?
3. 2.
It's actually 2. Here's one part. Because when we look at this, this is their head-like region that is fused together, okay? So that's why we say 2 body segments, and then for our purposes, when we get to the ticks, they've got 1 body segment.
Where's that? Assignment could be due?
Oh, I would venture to think somewhere around, I don't know if we'll get through it by the 5th, which would be a week from Thanksgiving. I don't think we'll quite have gone through enough information by then, because we still want to look at the lubers or grasshoppers, which are insects, so that we'll get to the insects perhaps at maybe Friday the 6th. Okay, that would perhaps be about the earliest.
When the silence do?
No, when we get to the insects. Okay, We said we still need to get over and look at the lubers/grasshoppers, which are insects, okay, which we'll maybe try to get to by the 6th, which is next Friday. All right. So then, where is this stinging apparatus? We don't want to just say abdomen, okay? Probably says that up there. Well, yeah. So it's at the very end. So you could say its tail, for instance, is where you would find that structure. And it's not the first time that we've seen this concept of a tail. We see it in the horseshoe crabs, which is class what? It starts with an M. Nope, that's a phylum. It's hard to pronounce, perhaps. It's called Meristromata, okay? Now, those, again, they're horseshoe crabs because, yes, they've got 2 body segments, but they also have a tail on them as well. Although there is no stinging apparatus on there, but it does have what we call a telson-like tail. Okay, so let's get through this one. Okay. So here we see the 3rd type of arachnids, okay? So the first order was Arachnae, which is an arachnid. That's your spider. The second order was your Scorpionida, which is scorpions. Then your 3rd order, as you can see, is, I don't know if it's Asari. I just always say Acari with a K-like sounding C. So Acari. So what we mean by this is, earlier we said, for our purposes, when we see that this cephalothorax is completely fused, it's one body segment, okay? And I understand you might say, well, they still have to have a mouth-like structure. Well, they do, but if you've ever seen a tick, they just look like a